Welcome to Advent of Tessellations 2025. My name is Madonna Yoder, and you're joining hundreds of folders around the world on this 25-day journey into the infinite world of repeating patterns folded from a single sheet of paper. You'll discover many different twists in this challenge, building up to advanced patterns with flagstone motifs of trapezoid twists. In day 3 of Advent of Tess, we are folding this pattern that I've named Gravity Wells. And in this pattern, we see 3 different sizes of triangle twist: closed, open, double open. On the other side, that's closed, teeny tiny hole, open, 1 grid spacing per edge, double open, 2 grid spacings per edge on those triangle twists. So one thing that's interesting about this pattern is that the very center is actually exactly the same as yesterday's pattern. And so we're going to start folding in exactly the same way. So for starting out, I've got my 24 division triangle grid on a hexagon. And again, if you need help making those triangle grids, make sure to sign up at training.gatheringfolds.com/advent to see the tutorial video on that number of grid divisions and some options for supplies where you can make that folding process easier. And in particular, there's also options to get the crease patterns printed on the paper with my favorite paper, Skytone, for folding tessellations. And that will make finding all of the pleats that much easier. So starting out, I'm going to find the center of my paper. And I'm finding that point by visually following the grid lines from the corners to that point. And I can also find the center by folding in half and then folding on another grid line to a corner. Either way, I've identified the center of my paper, and now I can zoom in. From here, I'm going to start with a valley fold, horizontal, 2 spaces above the center, going 2 spaces on either side above that center point. So 2 spaces on the left and 2 spaces on the right. I'm going to have a mountain fold that meets at the edge of this valley. So this is 1, 2, 3 spaces out from the center and continues 2 spaces up above the valley fold. Then I'll have my mountain fold parallel to that valley, and this is going to be an open triangle twist. So I'll outline 1 grid triangle with those mountain folds, and to get the rest of my valley folds, I want to make sure that they are parallel to these edges of the central triangle and outside of the central triangle. We don't want anything touching the corners of this central triangle. Then to set up this twist, I'm going to bring up all of my mountain folds, and I'm going to extend those mountain folds to the edges of the paper. And to keep that mountain in place, I will lay it down on the valley fold corresponding to what I've drawn. So mountain fold out to the edge, lay it down on the valley fold, then we can hold on to it while we're putting in our remaining plate. With this open triangle twist, we're going to press on the pleats, flattening pleats, outside of where the valley fold of one direction hits the mountain fold of the next. If you press inside of that, you're going to skew and distort your triangle, and your paper is going to want to shift your valley folds to places that are not on grid lines. With that in place, I'll press to squash, and I'm going to rotate my paper halfway around. So the center is now above my open triangle twist, and I have this pleat coming off the corner going out to the right. As I said, this center bit is going to be exactly the same as yesterday's tutorial. For my next twist, my closed triangle twist, I'm going to have a valley fold come to the corner of my open triangle twist, and then a mountain one space further out, and I'll open it up and put in my third direction of mountain fold coming to the same grid intersection. This is for the closed triangle twist, and once we have it set up, we'll press to squash. Rotating around, I'm going to move the pleat around the center from my closed triangle twist to a horizontal position, and I'm going to add an extra space before I hit the corner of the next twist, putting in that new valley fold, and then a mountain fold one space further. So the valley is one space out from the corner of the previous twist, the mountain is a second space out, and then this will be an open triangle twist. So our third direction of mountain will outline a grid triangle. And I just wanted to mention again right here that if you think that this grid line that I've drawn in is the same as the one that's lined up below the pleat, you would be mistaken. When that is opened up, those are in fact one space apart from each other. So it's important to open the pleat coming from the closed triangle before trying to find the third direction of mountain fold. And once that's all set up, we're going to press to squash. And you might notice that I'm moving a little bit more quickly through this today. That's because yesterday's video is still available. All of these videos stay available permanently, and so you don't have to rush through. If you feel like you need to repeat a day to really solidify what you learned, I highly encourage taking the time to learn all the lessons from one pattern before moving on to the next. And then rotating, I'm going to have the same spacing between this open triangle and our next closed triangle that we had between our first open and closed triangles, which means that the valley fold will come right to the corner of the twist, and our mountain will be one space further out. Then with our new valley and mountain, and this is how I would fold it if I wasn't drawing on the paper. I would put a valley on that grid line. I would put a mountain on the next grid line, and then open the pleat from the open triangle twist to run my third pleat, which determines the size of the triangle twist. And this new pleat is going to cross an existing pleat from our first triangle and make a pleat overlap. With all of that in place, I can press to squash the new triangle twist. Rotating so the pleat overlap is on my right hand side, I'll work on both of the next two twists and get them half set up first and then squash each one in turn. The valley fold from one pleat to the other of the overlap is going to hit one space out from the triangle twist corners. And then my mountain fold will be one space further away, which when I make three-way intersections of mountain folds on both of those places where my existing mountain fold and my new mountain fold meet, I will be able to lay that down flat, folding in towards the center, and I'll definitely want to make sure, especially if I feel any extra thickness here, I'll definitely want to check and make sure all my folds are still on grid lines. In particular with thinner papers, this will be an issue where there will be some crumpling up in that corner. From here, the bottom intersection needs to become an open triangle twist. And so we will move our mountain fold one grid spacing up and put our valley on the far side. So moving the mountain one grid space up outlines our target grid triangle, and putting in the valley lets us complete the twist, and we'll leave this upper intersection flat while we press to squash. From there, I'm going to flip the mountain fold over to turn this upper intersection into a closed triangle twist and press to squash. Okay. At this point, I'm going to put in a new open triangle twist on this pleat from the closed triangle twist. And this will look exactly like what we did yesterday, but it's about to take a turn. So our new valley fold is going to be one space out from the corner of the closed triangle twist. Our new mountain will be one space further than that, and this will be an open triangle twist. With that in place, I'll press to squash the open triangle, and then continue around, rotating my paper so this pair of parallel pleats is horizontal and heading out to the right. And then I will, still following the same steps as yesterday, add a closed triangle twist with the valley one space out from the open triangle corner, and the mountain one space further. And I'll put in my new closed triangle twist and press to squash. Now we diverge. So yesterday we said, okay, for this overlap, the next valley is going to be one space from the corners. This time it's going to be right at the corners. So our new valley fold is running from corner to corner, and we're going to have a new kind of twist. We're going to have a double open triangle twist, but before we get there, we're going to open the overlap and set up these two three-way intersections and lay them down flat. The first thing I'm going to do is turn this lower intersection, the one connected to the closed triangle, into an open triangle twist. In order to do that, I'm going to shift this mountain fold one space up and put the valley on the far side, just like we did in the center. So shifting the mountain one space, we outline our target grid triangle, then valley on the far side, and press to squash. From here, we need to put our new twist on the upper triangle, and I'll just draw in the continuation of this mountain fold on this side. And what we're going to do is we're going to shift this mountain fold two spaces in like that, and then put the valley fold on the far side. So this mountain is shifting not one space, but 2, we're outlining this great big triangle with 2 spaces per side. And we can see clearly where the corners of 2 sides of this triangle are going to be. They're going to be where the valley fold hits the open triangle corner. So the corner of this twist is going to hit the corner of the next twists. That's where I'm going to put my fingers to squash. I'll hold those 2 down, and then making sure that my valley fold underneath this pleat stays on a grid line, I'm going to start smoothing everything out from there. So that's the double open triangle twist. I also teach this triangle in its own video in the Summer of Twists series, which you can find at training.gatheringfolds.com. This twist doesn't feature in any of any of my beginner courses, but it does show up in Tessellation Academy and probably Tessellations by Tiles too, and also the repository of all my crease patterns known as Tessellation Garden. So there's lots of other patterns that use this twist, and it often shows up as a solution to some symmetry problems, which is kind of what it was doing today. Actually, it was one of the inputs, and then this triangle was the solution, which I can nerd out about this literally all day, but that's a topic for another time. Continuing onwards, I have my next set of parallel pleats, and I notice that this pleat coming from the double open triangle is at the bottom of the stairs. So I'm going to jump to the top of the stairs. Coming out from my closed triangle, I'm going to treat this one exactly the same as that first one that we did, and have the valley fold 1 space out from my closed triangle corner, my mountain fold 1 space further, and this is going to an open triangle twist. So for setting this up, I set up the valley 1 space out from the triangle corner, the mountain, and then open up the overshoot of the pleat from the existing twist to put in the pleat that determines the size of the triangle, and press to squash. So now we have this situation that would be an overlap if we had more grid, but we don't. And in order to resolve it, I'm going to point it out to the right hand side, and my valley fold here is going to come up from the double open triangle corner, and it will hit 1 space out from the open triangle corner. My mountain fold will be 1 space beyond that. There will be 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces along that mountain fold between my 3-way intersections of mountain folds. Then coming down here, on this end, we want another open triangle twist. And this time, the corner of my twist is right at the edge of the paper. And so I'm going to press on that grid triangle here, but mostly I'm going to make sure that these corners are squashed and happily in place before I spread the squash out into this corner at the edge. And with that twist in place, this top intersection will have its pleat flip over to become a closed triangle twist. And squash. Continuing on around, I'll rotate to the next set of parallel pleats. This open triangle twist has its closed triangle neighbors on all 3 sides. The double open triangle has open triangle neighbors on all three sides. You can see that this one has a space between the corners. This one has no space between the corners. So that's the core of the pattern. There's these groups of 4 twists. Then this one is missing the 4th, but we see which group it's in, what's on the other pleats, and we can fill in the gap and say, hey, I need 1 space until the corner of the twist, which is where the valley fold hits. And then this is going to make a closed triangle twist. And press to squash. And if you'd like to learn more about the possibilities, different examples of things you can fold with groups of 4 triangle twists, definitely check out Tessellation Starter Sequence, where I have quite a few videos that use only triangle twists in a variety of different layouts, whether it's clusters of 4 with both clusters on the same side, clusters of 4 with clusters on opposite sides. I think I even have different clusters on opposite sides. There's really a lot of variety, and you can say a lot about how that variety impacts how you fold. So again, for all of my courses, you can go to training.gatheringfolds.com to see those options. So from here, we're going to use the same steps that we did before with the open and double open triangle twists. We're going to have our valley fold go directly to the corners of both of these twists. Our mountain fold 1 space further in. This sets up 2 3-way intersections of mountain folds, well, of pleats. And then this bottom one will shift the mountain 1 space, put the valley on the far side, and squash an open triangle twist. And then the upper intersection will shift the mountain not 1, but 2 grid spacings, putting the valley on the far side, and put in our double open triangle twist. And with this one, when we're squashing, we want to be a little more careful because the angle between the mountain fold on the side of the triangle and the valley fold underneath is super small. So we definitely want to be doing this down on the desk. So the flat surface can help determine the shape of the twist. And this is something where a stiffer paper like a Skytone, like I'm using, is really helpful in getting that twist in the right shape. Then rotating around, the pleat off of the double open triangle is sitting at the bottom of the stairs, so I'll jump to the top. And I have an extra space out from this closed triangle twist to where my valley fold hits. Then I'll have my mountain fold 1 space after that, and this is going to an open triangle twist. So I'll put in the valley and the mountain, then open the overshoot of the original pleat to put in the 3rd pleat direction with the spacing for an open triangle, and press to squash. Down here, we would have an overlap if we had more grid, so I'll work on that next. My valley is going to come to the corner of the double open triangle, but it's going to be 1 space away from the open triangle, just like we saw before. Putting in my 2 3-way intersections, I'll then fold an open triangle down below. And again, if you need these instructions with more details, you can find that earlier on in the video. It's part of why these are recorded. And I'll press to squash these 2 inner corners where I have better references, and then push the squash out into the corner that's sitting right on the edge of the paper. Oftentimes with this, it makes sense to lift and pinch one of the final edges. This is another thing that having stiff paper helps with. And then this upper overlap is going to turn into a closed triangle twist. Okay, from here, we're rotating this final set of parallel pleats. There's 3 of them this time, and I'm starting at the top of the stairs. And I'm starting with a closed triangle twist with 1 space between the corner of the new twist and the corner of the old twist. This is still exactly the same as the instructions that we've seen twice already. And we can press to squash. Then I'll have my 2 new twists, the open and double open triangles, with the valley going straight from triangle corner to triangle corner. I'll start by setting up my 2 3-way intersections with this mountain fold 1 space away from the valley fold underneath. And then and the only difference from previous rounds of these steps is I have a teeny tiny bit of overlap up here. Then this bottom part of the bottom of these 2 3-way intersections, I'm going to turn into an open triangle twist by moving that mountain fold 1 space before putting the valley on the far side. And then the upper triangle, I'm going to shift that mountain fold, not 1, but 2 grid spacings down, and putting the valley on the far side. That valley will come to the corner of this open triangle that we just folded. And I can press to squash. And again, I want to notice that when I'm pressing here, I'm pressing on these open triangle corners, and I'm not moving my fingers any further in. I'm staying outside of this new triangle that I'm squashing. So then I just need to focus on finding the 3rd place to press. From here, I have what would be a pleat overlap if I had more grid, and it's one that we've seen before. We're going to have the valley come up from our double open triangle corner. We'll see double depth closed triangle twists later on. And I'm going to set up my 2 3-way intersections and lay that over flat. Then this lower one becomes an open triangle twist. We can press to squash and spread that squash out into the corner. And then the 3-way intersection above becomes the final closed triangle around this open triangle with extra space on all 4 sides. And press to squash. So that is our pattern for today, gravity wells. And let's take a look at the backlighting on this guy. We've got that same central group of 6 that we had before, but this time instead of continuing the pattern in groups of 6 like we did yesterday, we're continuing in groups of 4. So we've got 3 of the same around an open triangle, 3 of the same around a double open triangle. And that's really striking to see the backlighting there. One of the interesting things that we can observe from this pattern is that what you outline in mountain folds on the front is what you get in the hole on the back. It's just rotated. So when you look at the back side, there's 1 grid spacing per open triangle hole side, and 2 spaces per side on the double open triangle holes. That is a general property that we will see continue across a variety of different twists. The only place that it kind of sort of falls apart is when you have twists close enough to other twists that it's stealing some paper that was going to be bordering the hole. And so we get all of these twists, and we can repeat that as much as we like, make a broader pattern. You can see in this one that the groups of 6 repeat out here and in 6 places around the center. And we can repeat that in another way with a little variation where we say, okay, instead of a double open triangle, let's make it triple open. And in order for that to all connect together, the open triangle that was the center of a group of 4 turns out to need to be a closed triangle. So that makes even more dramatic holes on the back. And both of these patterns are available in the Advent of Tess 2025 ebook, which is on gatheringfolds.com, origamiusa.org, and also origamishop.com. So there's all kinds of ways that we can continue a pattern that starts like this. And one of the things that I love about Origami Tessellations is, what I just demonstrated of, if you make this triangle bigger, then you have to make that triangle smaller. That is a systematic insight that you can apply across a variety of patterns. Like I could say, well, instead of making this one bigger, what if I made it smaller? Then that one would have to get bigger. It works both ways. And this is one of the things that just captivated my attention with the tessellations, that you can create these tweaks and variations and they follow rules. Not only do the tessellations themselves have to follow rules in order to repeat forever, but the tweaks to the patterns, these systematic little nudges in one direction or another, also follow rules that allow you to anticipate what kind of twists are going to show up in different contexts. So happy folding, everyone, and I hope you had fun folding this, and I'd love to see what you folded. You can tag me at Gathering Folds on Instagram or Facebook, and you can also post more privately on my Discord server. You can post on there asking for help as well. Often people will get back to you on the Discord server faster than I can get back to you on Instagram. So that is an excellent resource if you're having trouble too. So today's pattern was the last of these triangle twist patterns with all the twists on one side. Tomorrow we're going to fold a pattern with open triangle twists, only open triangle twists, but they're on both sides of the paper. And it might look from the center like they're going to be alternating, but then you throw in the wild card and you get a brand new pattern. So happy folding, everyone, and see you tomorrow.